From quiet mornings to city lights, every story earns its right. No filters, no favors, just the truth all day long. This is the pulse of Jonesboro.
Welcome to the Pulse of Jonesboro. I am Jeremy Terrell, and I am your host, and I thank you for tuning in today. Guys, we got a lot to talk about again, and at some point in time, we're going to quit talking about what in the world we got going on in the city. But, you know, I get more and more frustrated. I've seen more and more emails. People are getting more and more frustrated with this because the city keeps throwing people under the bus and never taking responsibility. It blows my mind, actually. And I'm not 100% sure why this is. And at some point in time, the city council is going to have to act. And what does that mean? I don't know. That's up to the city council. But like, they can't fire the mayor. They can't do, but at some point in time, they've got to hold him accountable and get to the bottom of everything. And, you know, people keep coming up and asking questions. The last city council meeting just the other day was full of some more stuff and some more fireworks. And so unfortunately, we got to talk about it again. And here we go. When the indictment comes out, hopefully that's in, I don't know. I think the grand jury comes out and meets in April. So hopefully there's something that is done first part of April. We'll see. Maybe we'll know kind of the nuts and bolts about this stuff. But until then, the city council has got to figure this out. So let's go over some of the craziness that we've seen in the last, I'm going to cover in the last several months, but we can go all the way back to, you know, June, July, even April, when they started making excuses about things. You guys saw my last episode where I had the FOI about the email. I still got that sitting over here, and it's ridiculous. And there's just more and more and more. I want to start with this. Let's listen to a clip of the mayor asking people their name and address, and he just happened to omit the address of one. Let's listen to that right here.
Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
It's Bill Campbell. My address is 4.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to make a comment? Yes, sir. If you would, please come forward and state your name and address.
Jeremy Terrell, 9.
Anyone in the audience? If you would, please state your name and address.
Yeah, first, thanks, Craig, for explaining the one previous.
Name and address.
4108.
Would anyone else in the audience like to speak? Would please come forward. State your name, please.
My name is Dean.
As you can see, he asked everybody for their name and address. The last person, he did not ask for his address. The reason being is because that person lives in Little Rock. This guy drove up from Little Rock to talk on behalf of the mayor. This guy is, from what we know, a lobbyist. And with all that being said, you know, this guy drives up. Did he get paid to drive up and have a conversation on behalf of the mayor? I don't know. But all I do know is it's pretty ridiculous that he gets on to people. I mean, you kind of heard him talking to the female was Patty Lack, and you kind of heard him say it twice. Now, what's she going to get to it? I don't know. But, you know, the fact of the matter is, you know, he makes it known that everybody's got to give their name and address, and then he didn't do the young man because it would have been silly to have somebody from Little Rock come in and talk on behalf of the mayor in Jonesboro. But that's what happens. And this is the kind of stuff that just is incredibly aggravating to us. Like, they don't think that we're not going to know this stuff. So he asks for just his name, no address, and then allows this guy to talk as if, this guy has something to do with Jonesboro. And he doesn't. He doesn't have anything to do with Jonesboro. He's just a lobbyist or something to that effect. So shame on you on that one. That's just another ridiculous thing that we are dealing with. There's a couple of other things that are, in my opinion, ridiculous. You guys heard me talk a little bit about how he got up there, the mayor, and talked about other past mayors and other past parks director, kind of throwing them under the bus as well. And, saying that this didn't start with me, well, but you're the current mayor and you've been that for 5 years. And if you see a problem, it is now your problem. It doesn't matter whose problem it was before. If you continue to have the problem, it becomes your responsibility as the mayor. Him and Carol both constantly talk about how things, this was before us. This started before in the administration before this administration. So what? Why is that an excuse to not fix things? They just had somebody come up and say, why in the world, when people send an email to the city council, that they get it too? That's a fair question. That's a very, very fair question, and one that should be answered. Why can we not send a email to aldermen and not have it go to the mayor? That's another reason why people are scared and nervous to say anything, because they have some sort of oversight. And Carol said, well, that happened, maybe the previous mayor, maybe before that mayor, maybe even before that mayor. Who cares? You don't think that that's a privacy issue? I mean, I do. I think that it's a big time privacy issue. And you don't have the wherewithal to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. The last administration did it, so we'll just keep on doing it. It's things like that just are incredibly aggravating. So let's look at a couple of others. The incident where the mayor got up and threw Matt Daniel under the bus and basically made up some stuff about what his resignation letter looked like and why he gave a resignation letter. He made it seem like this was a disgruntled parent of city stars that, was mad at the situations that were happening, and then made up a bunch of stuff that wasn't true about how Matt Daniel really wanted a bunch of money, and he called him out, at this public forum. And so Matt addresses that, and you've seen that. That's on I have given that. Just scroll down in Facebook or go back a couple of episodes and look. It's in there, and it's bad. It's really bad. So there's a lie there, constantly throwing out lies. We have, Carol, she comes and people ask her, like, why can't we go cashless? Asks the mayor, why can't we go cashless? This has been asked now for, I know, since June, maybe before, maybe in April, that this started happening and being asked, can we go cashless? And last month, Carol's like, I don't know if we can legally go cashless. I haven't seen whether we could do that yet or not. What? Number one, ASU's gone cashless. Most high schools have gone cashless. There's lots of parks around the state that have gone cashless, but you don't know yet. How long do you need? A year to find out? Is that like moving in the right direction? I mean, this is silly. When the city council asks, when can we go cashless, back in June or July, and you still don't know 7 months, 8 months later, you don't have an answer for them? What are you doing? And it's just deflection or lying or incompetence. I'm not 100% sure what it is. but you should be acting upon the things that are requested by the city council. There's a couple more things on this last meeting where Carol was asked by David McLean, why didn't you ask, or did you ask any city employees, have they been paid in cash? So they made the claim that it didn't happen. Danny Kapalis made the claim that it didn't happen. They took his word for it. The audit that we talked about last week, which was a joke, they kind of took that as a serious thing. And she says, well, we haven't asked any employee whether or not they've taken cash because we don't know where the FBI is on their investigation. I'm quite sure, 100% sure. Come on here and tell me whether I'm wrong or not. The FBI would never say that you can't fix the problems that are going on, that you can't find out whether or not you've got people in here that are doing illegal things. Guarantee it, regardless of where they're at. Regardless. I know that it's my belief that there's been communication back and forth, and that that they should 100%, the city, that is, give all of the FOI's requests and not say anything that they can't do it because of an investigation. Well, if you can do that and you can answer all the FOI's, surely you can ask your employees, have they been paid in cash? You don't want to know? So they haven't even asked any employee. At least that's what they say. And the problem is we can't believe them anymore. But they said we have not asked any employee whether or not they received cash from City Stars. That's a joke. That's just another way they don't do their job. And then there's another one where Brian gets up and says, because they got asked about the parade and the money that went through City Stars, and the parade went through City Stars. And so people asked, well, who decided that? And Carol and Brian both were like, well, I don't know. Of course, the mayor just sits there and he looks at Carol and looks at Brian for an answer because he's not going to say anything. And so Carol says something, I don't even know, but it was like, we don't know. Or maybe she didn't even say anything but deferred to Brian. So Brian gets up and says, well, we didn't really have anything to do with that. I'd have to go back and look, but you probably would have to get with the coordinator of the Christmas parade, because I'm pretty sure she's the one that made the decision. Something to that effect, and threw it on her. Well, I can tell you that she has sent, and I'm not going to say her name. I don't want it, they said her name, numerous times. But she sent them an email, and she said, let me clear up all of the misinformation. And basically she said, she sends this email and she says, listen, I was in a room, I met with at City Hall with three people from the city, okay? So one of them being Danny and one of them being Brian Richardson, who Brian is the one that threw her under the bus, to discuss the parade coordination and details. So they talked a little bit about the history and which nonprofit would be taking this over. And in that meeting, Mr. Kapalis suggested that City Stars organization, as a 501c3, is already insured and ready to go. So it was Danny Kapalis and Brian Richardson and another city employee. And in that meeting, it was Danny that suggested that the 501c3 is the one that should pick up the parade. And they all agreed. And so she didn't make that. That was brought to her in a meeting. And she's incredibly frustrated. And come to find out, this is great. Come to find out, they found out during that whole thing that City Stars didn't have insurance. So all of this stuff with the kids and all of that stuff, being under the umbrella of City Stars, they didn't even have insurance. So I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. I don't even know what to say about that, but that's ridiculous. So another thing, and it's a lie, and it's one of those things where, again, they 100% just deflect, lie, hide, twist, you name it. I don't think they've told the truth yet, to be honest. I don't think that they've just laid it out at all. You know, and we all remember, and I'll let me put this clip up so you guys can remember this.
The facility, you're the one with the assets. I think, you know, this was brought up originally back in, you know, according to our little binder we got back in like April or so of 2003 or February of 2023 is when the Revolution started asking questions. I'm disappointed that it's dragged on until April or February of 2026 with really no resolution. I think as a, you know, I've supported Cope. He knows that, but I feel as CEO of the city, you shouldn't let things drag out that long. You have to. I mean, you don't not get back to people. It's our job or your job to make the hard decisions and not just, okay, I'll get back to you in a couple of weeks and never get back to people. I think that's one thing that definitely needs to be improved, and that's let something fester and become it turned into from a little snowball into a big avalanche. And now that we got the public here, you know, with eroded public trust, you know, just frustrated, you know, the problems have escalated. And, you know, I don't take that lightly. The other thing too is, you know, obviously the relationship between the mayor and the council is one that's built on trust. I mean, we have to be transparent with each other, or else we're not gonna get anything done. And, you know, I don't know if it was a misspeak or you read it wrong or what, but at the January 6th meeting, when you said that you had spoken to several members of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, I had people the next day come up to me and say, Joe, I haven't spoken to the mayor about this. On what day did I do it? It's a couple of weeks ago. Trying to reference my notes here. It was January 21st. I called 9 members of that committee. I didn't call Dr. Coleman. I mean, he's on that committee, you know, that advisory committee. I called 9 members, you know, after you had said you had spoken to several, and you had spoken to one. Only one told me he had spoken to you, and then one member has said they had spoken to Jim at a basketball game. So, like I said, I don't know if that was intentional or not intentional, but it has raised questions in my mind about why you would say that over something so simple and trivial that you didn't have to say that. Just say, I meant to speak to him, I didn't get to it. But, I mean, obviously, I just think there has to be, we got to do better. I said at the last meeting, there's plenty of opportunity for improvement. And I think that improvement comes from being better communication, open, honest, and taking care of business. We can't just keep kicking the cans down the road when it's hard decisions. I mean, you got to be the place where the buck stops here. And you got to be open and transparent with us. So that's all I have to say about that. That's all I have to say about that right now. Thank you.
Yep. Another lie. And the mayor even said it. He said, you know, in that, somewhere in there, he said, yep, you know, I did only talk to one of them. So he got up in front of the city council and the people and lied. And he continues to say, you know, I won't ever change my integrity. You know, well, that may be true, but what level of integrity is there when you continue to lie? And you continue to say you talk to people. and you didn't. And you continue to say, well, it was them, and it wasn't. You know, we've got three now that have been thrown under the bus that wanted to come to city council or send emails and say, you lied. You lied about me. You threw me under the bus. Enough's enough. And we just continue to hear these stories. And so people like me have to continue to come on here and talk about the lies that are going on. You know, the massive inflation about, you know, the state of the city or the whatever that's called. You know, it's you'll love this. In one of my comments, I've got two people that do or used to work for the city, the asphalt companies, and they said in their comments on one of my posts that, hey, I've worked, you know, since 2000 for the asphalt company. We used to just stay busy doing roads for the city. We haven't done any in a long time. In a long time. So what does that mean? And you know, another person commented and said, well, you know, how do you know what's going on in the city if you don't add all of that stuff in? And I'm just scratching my head going, how do you know what the city's doing if you add all that stuff in? If you add in what RDOT's doing, if you add in what other people are doing, if you add in what businesses are doing, so it makes you look like you're the one doing it. We don't know what the city is actually doing, just the city, because he lumps all this other stuff in with it. And I would bet that if we look, there's not a whole lot going on with the exception of maybe some. I mean, I know that there's some incredibly competent people in there that are doing some great things. But there's also a ton of people in there that aren't. And I want to know who it is. Who's working and who's not. People ask me all the time, what do I think about this situation? You know, I don't think the mayor is on the take. I don't think Carol's on the take. I don't think anybody else is on the take. I think this is probably going to be, well, I don't say anybody. I mean, we may find out that there's other people in other circumstances that are on the take. But I don't believe that the mayor or Carol or even Brian are on the take by any stretch of the imagination. But I do think that they're incompetent. I think that the mayor doesn't work. I think that that's the big thing. I think he waits around and wants to do a proclamation and a couple of ribbon cuttings, and he picks which ones he does on the ribbon cuttings and which ones he shows up to. Maybe it's because he's busy giving proclamations out. I'm not 100% sure, but that's the consensus. You know, they continue to lie about the police department. It is in disarray. Please say it one more time. Please lie one more time, because I have receipts and I'm going to bring them on here. We're going to have guests real soon. They're going to tell us the truth about what's going on with the police department. So please lie about that again, Mayor. It's so frustrating. It's just frustrating. You know, they touted the audit. And again, we remember the audit. I still got the page right here. I still got the email right here. They touted it where she says, hey, whatever I can do to make sure that, you know, when I'm done with the audit, that there won't be any questions, that nobody will be able to argue it. So just tell me what those are so that I can make sure that I do my audit based upon the people's questions. You know, the pile is so big of just lies now. It's so big of lies. We don't know what the truth is. We don't have a clue what the truth is. To try to keep up with it, we would have to go back to almost every single meeting and track down what's the truth and what's a lie. And I believe that there is a ton of lies mixed with some few truths. And I would go to say that when they say, I don't know, which is a ton, which is a bunch, that's a lie. It's a lie. And here's a big one, Mayor. And I was going to wait till city council, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it right now because I know that some people have asked this question. So I'm going to go ahead and ask it right here. Do you and people within the city use an app to communicate that erases after those communications? True or false? Because I have heard that you do by very credible sources. So, do you have an app on your phone, and does other people in the city have an app on their phone that you guys use to communicate that erases after the communication? That's a no-no. That's a big, big no-no. And we're going to find out. Guarantee you. So I'm asking you right now, if that's the case, I want the truth. I need you to come on here. I need you to get up in city council meeting. I don't care where it's at, and tell us yes or no whether or not you use some sort of form of app or whatever it is to communicate that erases. That needs to be known. So, guys, it's a short one this week, full of a bunch of information. It's time to move on to the next stuff because we have other stuff that we have to talk about. And here's the fun stuff, man. We will be opening up NEA promotions coming to a place near you, which means we've got some great stuff happening. And I'm going to do an episode probably next week. Fingers crossed that nothing happens in any of the meetings, which we got one next week. I'm sure it's going to be packed with full stuff. So I may do an episode off because people want to know what it is, what are the answers to some of this stuff. And I'm going to lay out some answers and talk about what it is that we should be doing as a city versus what we are doing. And, you know, the time is now that we move forward. And it's, again, like I said a minute ago, at some point in time, the city council's got to take action. Now, if you guys have full confidence in the mayor, say it. I mean, Matt Daniels said it perfectly the last time. If you got confidence in him, say it. If you don't, say it. I'm sick and tired of you guys, with the exception of a few, sitting on the sidelines, not giving any of your opinions. The people deserve it. You know, the 20,000 people that listen to the Pulse of Jonesboro every day deserve it. And the time is now for you guys to step up to the plate and demand better, because we all deserve better. Ask the tough questions. Find out for yourselves. If you guys want to get a hold of me, there's plenty of people, every single one of you guys know, that can call me, and I'll hook you up with all of my information. And I guarantee the people that talk to me will talk to you about the police department, about the lies, about this app, about people not doing things within the city. They'll do it. And it's your job to hold the mayor accountable and work for the people. Now, I don't know what comes of this. I believe when the indictment comes out, it's going to be, we're all going to be scratching our heads going, wow. Now, do I think City Stars is going to pull in other people? I don't know. I'm still out on that one. Something's telling me probably not. But is there a whole lot of people doing, I ain't got nothing to see here, and knowing about it and turned a blind eye? I think so. I think there's a lot of turning the blind eyes. And I'm going to finish with this, guys. Let me ask this big question to you. And I want to hear from you in the comments. And I want you to share this because I really want to know what the citizens of Jonesboro think should happen with the money. Now, in the last meeting, Carol said that they have something around $70,000 that they got from, I think the FBI released it to them, or it was in the account and they got the money. Maybe the board voted for them to have the money. I'm not 100% sure. Okay. So there's $70,000 there and maybe more money to come. If Danny had been stealing and maybe there was money in the account or at his home, there's been all kinds of rumors of, lots of cash found in certain places, lots of, speculations of things. And so what do you guys want to see with that? Stolen money, in my opinion. Stolen money from taxpayers. What do you want to see happen with it? I think it needs to go back to the citizens. So maybe for the next, year or so with $70,000, maybe the gate isn't $3, maybe it's $2 a person. Maybe you sponsor something with that, with jerseys or different uniforms or something with that money. So it's currently $70,000, and I think once it's all said and done, there'll be 100,000, maybe 200,000. I don't know. I mean, I think if Danny's found guilty, that the city should demand the money back, whatever that is. I think it should be paid back to the citizens. But I do know that they do have money currently right now, and it shouldn't just go into their slush fund. It shouldn't just go into the general fund or something that they can use down the road for one of their pet projects. It needs to go back to the people it was stolen from. So share this part. Let me know what it is you want to see done with that $70,000+ that was stolen from a youth organization, kids and parents. What do we want to see done with it? Appreciate you guys. Have a great and wonderful week. We will see you next time. Peace.